Hey guys, welcome back to the Index. Today we're visiting the Human Forerunner Wars, a set of wars that would set in motion the destruction of all life and the resetting of existence. While watching the video, keep your eyes open. I've hidden Easter eggs in the form of Forerunner symbols that require deciphering to attain a message within the video. Comment down below where the symbols are in the video and also what the message is if you manage to decipher it. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like. Let's go for 650. (107,445 BCE). Humanity stands weaker than the Forerunners, who were the most powerful species in the galaxy. Humanity, being the overzealous species they were, and to an extent still definitely are, wished to break the Forerunners' dominion. They began to expand throughout the Orion Arm and eventually built a very profound empire that consisted of more than 20,000 worlds in 1,000 systems. This influenced the Ur-Didact to recognise humanity as the second greatest threat in the galaxy, just behind the Forerunners themselves, at least before the discovery of the Flood. Ancient humanity allied themselves with the Sanshayum, a technically sophisticated race, and together almost rivaled the Forerunners, mostly due to their ability to reverse engineer precursor technology. This was done at Charum-Hakor, the capital of the ancient human civilization, and created one of the largest precursor artifact collections in known existence. This made them extremely arrogant, thinking they could finally challenge the Forerunners' dominance, and coupled with their beliefs that the mantle belonged to them over the Forerunners, led to them becoming ideological enemies. During their expansion, the humans stumbled upon large cargo ships of an unknown origin that had mysteriously crashed on planets near the edge of the galaxy. It was theorized they'd come from the Large Magellanic Cloud, more commonly known as Path Chthona by the Forerunners, which was a dwarf galaxy that orbited the significantly larger Milky Way. No crew were found on board, and the ships seemed to be automated. On board instead of the crew were millions of small, transparent cylinders filled with a mysterious powder. The humans tested the powder under strict containment and found it to be mostly harmless. This led to the powder being purchased and used on small animals known as the Faru, as it incited desired behaviour and traits in them. Over time, however, this powder merged and altered the Faru's genome to generate its own Flood supercells. Infected Faru then began infecting other Faru, then later showed symptoms of major Flood mutation, such as fleshy tentacles. The infection then spread to humans in close proximity to them, along with the Sanshayum, of whom kept the Faru as pets. The Flood outbreak began to spread and very quickly reached the feral stage. By the time humanity could retaliate, the Flood had already engulfed entire planets and were very quickly spreading. Humans began stealing planets from other species to make up for those which were lost, and ultimately annihilated 50 defenseless systems where the Forerunners had resettled other species. Humanity forcibly took planets everywhere, including some that were inhabited by the Forerunners. However, not all of this expansion was out of arrogance and overzealousness. Humanity was running, they were fleeing from the outbreak. Human fleets under command of Forthencho, the Lord of Admirals, were sterilising planets where the outbreak had consumed. The same went for the Forerunner worlds too, and which were targeted for orbital bombardment, which killed millions of Forerunners. The Forerunners, however, did not see the Flood as a credible threat, so these acts of destruction only fueled their burning hatred towards humanity, which ultimately led to their retaliation. One of the Forerunners' earliest victories over humanity was their conquering of Erda, more commonly known now as Earth, which is humanity's homeworld. Over the course of the 1,000-year conflict, humanity never even got remotely close to the Orion complex, which acted as the centre of all Forerunner power. The Didact, who was the commander-in-chief of the Forerunner military, devised a star-hopping plan, where Forerunner fleets would jump to strategically important human worlds, skipping the less important star systems out. This allowed them to conserve resources and fight only when it mattered. The conflict went on for centuries, with the Forerunners winning the majority of wars. 40 years before the final conflict, a human science expedition discovered an ancient being, the Primordial. It was brought to Charum-Hakor, the home of their capital, and interrogated about the flood. The interrogators got the answers they sought, but they were so traumatizing that many of them committed suicide shortly after, rather than living with the knowledge of what he told them. In a drastic, desperate measure, humanity's leaders genetically altered a third of the entire human population by inserting genes to fight flood biomass, then subjecting them to flood consumption. The genome alteration appeared to be working, and supposedly killed off flood biomatter and destroyed the flood until the few who survived had to escape. This would be the last of the flood for the next 9,000 years. However, they were by no means defeated, rather willingly retreated. Why? Humanity were an absolutely essential piece of the flood's overall plan to destroy the Forerunners, and must be kept alive, at least for the time being. The conflict with the flood led to countless human systems being left destroyed, and cost more than a third of their significant military resources and population. Humanity almost succeeded in fighting a two-front war against the flood and the Forerunners. However, after defeating the flood took its toll on them, the Forerunners dealt the final blow. Not only did this signal their defeat, but also the beginning of the end for ancient humanity at the hands of the Didact. Human forces could quite easily fight back against the Forerunners if on equal footing, however only if they were on equal footing. Forerunner forces massively outnumbered them. After defeating the flood, humanity was unable to even slightly regain a footing in the galaxy, as all the colonies that they'd lost had been taken over as military strongholds by the Didact. However, even after the defeat, the flood still had control of thousands of planets. Ironically, given their prior view on the flood, a fleet of the Didact's warrior servants stumbled upon the parasite, which ultimately led to the infection of hundreds of their battle fleets. This caused them to reverse their view completely, finally acknowledging the threat the flood posed to all life. They adopted a policy of total extermination, and were able to temporarily defeat the flood using sheer firepower. It was here the Forerunners learnt of the Logic Plague also, which is the method the flood used to corrupt AIs on board infested fleets. After losing system after system to the Forerunners, humanity was pushed back to their capital, Charum-Hakor. The Didact's naval fleets cut communications between the capital and humanity's remaining planets, which isolated them tactically. Humanity incorporated precursor technologies into their designs, constructing fortifications worthy of withstanding the strongest fleets, including using star roads to link orbital defense platforms together. This defense held up for 50 years in fact, but ultimately the Didact managed to fight through the resistance and easily capture the capital. However, this didn't come without high Forerunner casualties, some of which actually included the Didact's children. One of the main reasons the Forerunners were able to punch through this defense so well was due to the Sanshayum leadership surrendering themselves to them, leaving humanity and the remaining Sanshayum stranded on Charum-Hakor. When the Forerunners finally seized the capital, a majority of the human and Sanshayum committed suicide, seeing it as a more honourable outcome than being imprisoned by the Forerunners. Thanks a lot for watching guys. If you found the Easter egg, post where it is in the video in the comments and get decoding. I'll see you next time in the final episode of the Index, where we're going to be looking at the Forerunner Flood War.